Well, welcome to Coffee and a Mic. Today we are joined by Pinal County Board of Supervisors Chairman Mike Goodman. Chairman Goodman, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
So what's new in Pinal County in the Santan Valley area? Anything?
Oh yeah. There's, it's a new day and a new challenge all the time, and which is exciting. I think it's what keeps me young, right? You could probably ask your mayor the same question. She knows.
Right. I think one of the things in a big growth area like this is transportation is always top of mind, and it has been forever.
Well, you're just going to go right for the throat.
We're just going to get right to it.
Right? Let's take it on, baby.
So tell us a little bit about what's happening in the transportation area.
Well, I think many of our citizens will drive around and they can actually see a lot of the things, and I can feel their frustration because I felt that today when I came, and how the bottleneck and things of that nature. But the bottom line is we're progressing. We're heading in the forward direction, and that's the thing that I think, if anything, to communicate to our citizens is that we're doing what we need to be doing, and that is moving forward to help make things safer and more accessible, and to where we can actually move the people back and forth safely, more efficiently. We were at the LG groundbreaking, and there was a comment, and it just came to me. And I ran for this position for some selfish reasons, and the bottom line was family. And what is it that I could do as an elected official to help make the family a more quality family, provide better quality time? I remember years ago, and I think many of the citizens here that have been here for a while would remember the time that it took to travel just to go to work. Many of our residents travel outside of this area to go to work, and it would take them 2 or 3 hours on the road at least, at minimum, every day. And to be able to have quality time at home is so imperative and so important. We need moms and dads to be at the dinner table, sitting down with their kids, having good conversations about what happened at school that day, their friends, enjoying one another's, being able to go to ball games and show the support with their kids and dance. I mean, that's a big thing nowadays. And so on and so forth. And the bottom line is just to help improve the quality of life. And to me, that quality of life begins at home.
And so part of that is the transportation plan. I think first up is maintaining what we have here now. So you have something coming up on the ballot about that?
We do, and I appreciate you asking that. We have much similar to what Maricopa County just experienced. They're going to have it on the ballot. They've decided to put it on the ballot for the citizens. There's what they call a maintenance fund that we've actually had in Pinal County for close to 40 years. We're at 38 right now. So we have 2 more years before it sunsets, which means that it has to go back to the voters in order for it to continue. So the voters have already voted on the first round, they voted on the second round, and now this will be the third round. And that's what we're going to be asking all the cities and the county to actually vote to put it on the ballot so that our citizens can vote on that maintenance fund. The bottom line is we had an economic analysis that was presented to us as a board the other day. And when you looked at it, the impact that it will have on our entire region, it will devastate us when it comes to economic growth. And that is a key factor of moving things forward, is that economic growth.
So you need the tax. It's an existing tax, so all we're talking about doing is extending what's already being paid. And that particular tax goes towards maintaining what's already here, keeping it functional.
Yeah. And I think many of us that experience not having those HERF funds available to us over that 7-year drought, our roads and infrastructure showed not having those dollars available to us. And that's the same direction we're headed. If we do not have this particular fund re-upped for the next 20 years, The county relies a lot on those funds to do the maintenance of our roads and infrastructure. I know the city does too. All the cities in our county rely on that. And it's interesting the way you talk, what you just said. We as a county made a decision years before I even took office, was that we were not going to use property tax dollars to build roads or to even maintain them. We decided that maintenance fund and other funds like that, and impact fees and things of that nature, the developers are coming out, they need to do their portion of roads improvements and things. And so our decision was that leave the property tax alone. Those funds will help pay for the sheriffs, the police protection, health, those type of safety issues. But let's look at the sales tax portion of it and what that can do. And then it's not just on the residents that live here. It's actually on everybody as a whole that comes here. They work here. They go to get groceries or whatever. They go to Circle K to get gas. And so those are the things that I think that are important. They're the ones using the roads. So that actually puts that back into our roads and infrastructure.
Captures a bigger pool. And I think that was an interesting point also, is that when the developments come in, because we hear that most often, is why do you allow more development, as if, it's not America, you could stop that, but why do you allow more development when we haven't built the roads? And it's because those developments build the roads in front of them.
Yes.
And so new growth pays for the roadways.
You talk about the great country that we live in. We are a property rights country. And, the individuals that have those properties, they have the right to do something with those properties. I think of the families that were originally settled this area, the Barneys, the Schneffs, the Sossamans, the Nevitts, those families that came here and settled this area. I remember talking to, they call him Pops Nevitt, Grandpa Nevitt. One day I was coming back and licking my wounds from farming, and he just stopped me out in the middle of the road on his little scooter. And we started talking about the farming operation, and he made it, he says, at least I have something of value that I can actually, and people can enjoy. That's why they come here, the country feel. And it was rather interesting scenario that he had, the outlook that he had. And the guy lived the most simplest life you'd ever be around. And that's just the way he was. But he was glad that he had something that he could give to the people that were wanting a piece of that pie, that piece of heaven.
Yeah, and maintaining that small town and the farming roots is really important. But moving people around.
Let's get back to that, right?
So not in addition to the maintenance tax, you do have a plan for north-south roads. We've completed Combs moving east and west, and Ocotillo east and west.
Yes.
And now it's sort of looking at the north-south roads. And how's that going to work out?
So if you've driven down Combs Road all the way to Schneff, there's still a lot of construction that's going on there. And again, you've got the developers on both sides that they've been working with the county. The county took the lead from Kenworthy forward because we took the lead on Kenworthy. The bridge is being rebuilt. In fact, I just drove over a couple days ago, and it's already at a level service to where they're going to be putting pavement down here pretty quick. And so it'll connect over the Queen Creek and then continued, and we've already done the improvements on the north side of the Queen Creek to where it's wider now and more, a lot safer to drive on. Sidewalks so people can walk and do things of that nature. But it's going to go all the way down to Germain Road. And so there's a lot more improvements that need to be made. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that we're doing. Then you take Ocotillo. We're going to be expanding that to 5 lanes. There's some different developments that are happening now, Kenworthy and Ocotillo. The LDS Church just announced that they're going to put They're going to build a stake center there, and so part of the amenities they're going to have to contribute and add to the corner there and all that area right there with sidewalks and things and those type of things, as well as stoplight. That's going to help move traffic a lot better, and so that's the type of a development that is coming down the pipeline. And 5 lanes, because our goal, as you and I both know, is to take Ocotillo all the way to the canal at this point. Because of the coming off of the 24, the county has already set things in motion to come across and follow on this side of CAP Canal an expressway that will go connect all the way down to Arizona Farms eventually. But our first length is to get it down to Ocotillo. The objective is all of the traffic and all the construction and everything that's being built on the south side of the Santan Valley area, that's going to converge over onto Ironwood or Meridian Road that we just did, or even Ellsworth Road coming off the front highway. That's what we're finding right now. That's been a problem for years. And when we didn't even have Meridian Road, that was even a bigger problem. And so we need to have other ways for these people to, to get north. Plug the hole with some of the development, with the large employer organizations that are coming, the employer groups that are coming here, like LG. That's going to make a big difference. That's less time on the road. That's less traffic that's having to go in another direction, and we're keeping them right here.
Yeah, and that's going to be an important part, is having those big employers come, and then having those north-south routes like the Parkway, and eventually getting 24 built. Do you think we're going to get the $87 million back that the governor clawed up?
I was told to kind of keep my comments to an even kilt with the LG plant because we had the governor there. And the bottom line is I'm not sure she understands completely the impact of her clawback, what that has done. At that time, whenever it was first allocated to us to have that $87 million, the design of putting an overpass right now over Ironwood was the plans, and always has been the plans, so that we can move traffic efficiently. When she pulled that back over a year ago, what that did was the cost was roughly about $84 million to do that. Today, the analysis is $112 million. That's how much there has escalated in the price of building these roads. And so I think some of our elected officials, if they had a better understanding of the impact that these roads and infrastructure have on people and their lives, I think they'd have a different approach. And politics aside would just go, and then for the best intent and purposes for the people. That's why we're here. Let's do what's right, and let's just do it right for the people.
Yeah, and so
I don't know if we're going to get it back. That was your question. I think we have some strong legislators that are really pushing forward. It's encouraging. I've talked to a couple of them the other day and asked them where we're at on it. What do I need to do? And I'm just telling everybody here today, you know what? Get a hold of the governor's office, pound her with everything about the importance of all the roads and infrastructure here. And I think if that's the message, it needs to go to our governor.
Right, and I think people in general need to know, like, the maintenance tax, even though it doesn't sunset for 2 years, you have to plan 5 years out, and if the funding source isn't there, all the plans go on the shelf, the costs then go up. Maricopa County is going to be looking at a similar thing with Prop 479. That was already delayed once, so all of those projects went on the shelf, and the price tag went up on everything as a result. So
that's an excellent point, because there on the 24, there was so many of these projects. You've got the overpass at Meridian Road. You have the overpass at help me out, Mountain. The overpass at Signal Butte. Those are all vital and important to help move traffic efficiently, especially the east-west traffic there on the 24. We have stoplights at every one of those now.
We have a 24 Parkway.
Yeah, you know, and that's, thank goodness we were able to push that up by 4 years.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we were still, that wouldn't even be completed until 2026.
Yeah.
So kudos to us and to the town of Queen Creek, because if it wasn't for us pushing Meridian Road through like we did, I'm convinced that that's what escalated the construction of the 24 and made that baby go 4 years earlier than what it did.
Yeah, already over capacity now.
Oh.
4 more years, it would have just been a nightmare.
Oh.
So I try and make that point as much as I can. It's not the 24 freeway, it's the 24 Parkway.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when talking to electeds from somewhere else in the valley, they'll say, oh, well, the 24 was done.
You know, can you imagine what kind of relief it would be to the entire valley area is if we were to extend the 24 all the way through to the 60 at Peralta Trail. That will relieve all the congestion and everything that happens with the Renaissance Fair. But right there on the 60 around Gold Canyon, mm-hmm. that would give another direction for people, not to mention all the mining and everything that's going up north. That's a lot of heavy equipment that's going up and down, and not necessarily the 60 itself was built for that.
And has stoplights as well.
Oh, yeah. And by extending that expressway will help move those type of products a lot easier and less wear and tear on our roads and infrastructure.
Well, I think the plans to get the north-south going and all of that's going to be great. We're going to have to keep fighting to get the funding for all of it. But one of the other points that you brought up was not having to drive. So what's happening now in your district to make sure that we have retail and jobs and things right here so that people don't have to drive into Tempe, Phoenix, wherever?
You know, that's another really good question. That was something that we did a study on a few years ago, which you are very much aware of. And that's the retail leakage that we're losing just from our Santan Valley residents. And it's no, you know, the town of Queen Creek has done a very effective job over the years of using the demographics of Santan Valley to help them in their business world, bringing businesses here, retail especially. Look at the marketplace. The foresight that they had whenever the realignment of Ellsworth Road, going underneath the rail system itself, and so that they can move traffic to and from, and then designating that central core right there as a retail center. And look what's happened with the town of Queen Creek. We want to use that example out there where we're at. So we started about 3 years ago working with the State Land Department on some property that they own just on the opposite side, on the west side of Gansel, across from Post and Butte High School. That's an area that I farmed for several years up in that area. It's to the south of Empire. And so what we did was we went to the State Land Department after we did that extensive study on the Santan Valley plan. And one of the things was that was identified as a core center for retail, for community centers, for if it ever becomes incorporated, for municipality governing agencies to build buildings and things of that nature right there. So we've got the extension of Skyline that's going to come to Gansel, okay? What we're doing is we're working with the State Land Department to rezone much of that geographical area and turning it into a master plan area, 200 or 300, 400 acres, that will be specific to retail, parks. That's one of the biggest areas that we're missing, is parks, a swimming pool, public pool, big enough for all the schools there. There's 6 high schools in that region that can compete with and do competition with their swimming teams. And then with some high-density apartment complexes. You know, people are, that seems to be the going market right now, is people don't really want to take care of their yards. That, I would say, you know, as a parent, I'm probably to blame for that. You know, I'd have my kids go out and mow the lawn and stuff, and now they're older and married, it's like, you know, we want to do other stuff. But those are what people want. And so when we can actually help in the planning process to be able to have some things in place whenever these developers, we're being inundated with apartment complexes right now. The problem is they want to turn a lot of our commercial property into apartment complexes. We've already shown that we've got over $1.6 billion that leaves our area, that comes into Maricopa County to help Maricopa County build their roads and infrastructure. We need that tax dollar back to that maintenance fund. We need that in our area. And so we as government are taking initiative to do this so that we can help drive that retail. So we're learning from our friends over here at Town of Queen Creek. That's what we're working on. I want to take it a step further, because if we could, and I've talked to our staff about this just the other day, I says, we've got to find a way to get this over the rail. We need to do what Queen Creek did, and I'm talking about Skyline Road. Mm-hmm. Taking Skyline over the top of the rail and then moving it more towards the east and tie it into when the expressway comes down. And what that's going to, there's already homes being built out in that region. It's crazy what's going on right now. And it's not going to slow down anytime soon. And that will make it more accessible for those people to come to that retail outlet right there. So those are some things that if we could, I want to see that happen pretty quick.
Right, so you mentioned a couple of key points there. When I talk to people about Santan Valley, they're usually focused on the west, on what's happening along Ironwood, places like that. And really the opportunity is to the east, where you're going to collect impact fees, construction sales taxes, things like that. Not to mention the availability of the land for large employment campuses and retail areas. So the east is going to be the key, particularly with Superstition Vistas coming in and with Florence starting to get tract home developments and starting to be the new growth area. And in order to capitalize on that, in order to get the amenities, the parks, somebody to lead the charge on building the bridge over the railway, that's where a municipality would come into play. And so they're in to incorporate Santan Valley and tell us a little bit about that and what it would mean.
So there's a lot more quirks that a municipality is able to do than a county agency because of the laws and the way they're structured. And so a municipality has the ability to work out some tax, a lot more flexible when it comes to the sales tax than we do as a county. So the other thing is what a incorporation would do, it will give more empowerment to the local people. Right now the decisions are made by 5 of us, and 3 of us have to agree with me in order to make it, and that includes myself, by the way. So in order for things to move forward and in what may be a positive impact on our region and on our area, what this does, this takes it completely out of the hands of the Board of Supervisors, and it puts the control to the local. I'm a big individual about a lot of our rights and our freedoms under the Constitution. And I honestly believe that our forefathers had the intent to keep government more on a local basis than on the federal side. And that's what a municipality does. It brings it more localized to the people. They're right there, right then. I've gone into the grocery store, and I'm sure your mayor will give the same example. I go into the grocery store, and I'm always inundated. I go in, and I have friends that will call me out in the middle of and say, I went into the A store when it first came out, whenever it first opened up in my area, And I walked in, and one of my friends was standing right there, and we were doing all the road construction. And he just blurted out and says, "Hey, everybody, this is your Pinal County supervisor. You have any questions about the roads, he's the guy." And then he walks off. I was there for 2 hours. And so, he made me accountable for what I'm doing in my position. So the bottom line is that that's what it does. It brings it more localized for the people. And so if you haven't guessed by now, I'm 100% behind the effort. I've been for years, and I will. We have the town of Queen Creek that has been on board with it. I think the chamber has been on board with it. The county, the county itself has to stay neutral, but they are doing, under our direction, they're providing all the information, everything necessary for them to look at and to figure what their budget's going to be like coming out of the gate, those type of things. And then we as a county will do much what when Queen Creek first became incorporated, they used the police force of the Sheriff's Department here in Maricopa County. I would imagine they probably used some of the planning and processes that took place with the county. They subcontracted with them to do all of that stuff. And I'm hoping that that's the same thing, and we're open to that too.
And so we did a separate video with our Fast Talk series, and you can see that with one of the leaders of the Santan Valley Incorporated. It's on our YouTube channel for the Queen Creek Chamber. And that was an interesting discussion, but a lot of steps to try and bring that together. But it is underway, and they're hoping to bring it to the ballot at least as of right now, this being April of 24, they're hoping to have it on the ballot in May of 25, I think. So that's going to be interesting. We'll have more information coming out about that. But the municipality does allow for better planning of the parks and collection of the impact fees that are more localized. So right now, when you collect taxes in Pinal County, Santan Valley, it could be, if a project in Casa Grande is prioritized, then money can shift that direction?
To a degree. Those impact fees that we collect are specifically for that region. We do have the discretion to be able to use it elsewhere, and we have. But for the most part, we try to keep it within that region and the impact that it's going to do, especially on the roads and the infrastructure.
Is that the same with the sales tax?
The sales tax, no.
Sales tax is in
a big pot. Maintenance fund that you're talking about, actually, it goes towards our TAC, our TIMP. And they look at, there's 10 members on that TIMP board, and they look at what projects over the next 5 years are going to be vital. They do the research, and they're appointed by us, each supervisor. We get 2 people that sit on that, and quite interestingly, one of my appointments actually works in the planning department for town of Queen Creek on roads. And so she's been a major asset for one of my appointments. And so she has a pretty good feel for that stuff. She happens to live in our county. I mean, in my district, and so she's been. So that's how the process happens. So they evaluate, and quite honestly, what's been good about that is that many times a lot of the projects have been concentrated, and the efforts have been within Santan Valley because of the need that we have. I've been in this office now for close to 8 years, and we have spent in the last 9 years over $217 million on just the infrastructure of the roads in Santan Valley.
Yeah,
that's a lot of
right?
Cash, yeah.
And so when it started as Johnson Ranch, we just had Hunt Highway, 1 lane each way.
Yeah.
And it has come a long way. I think Gary, the connection at Gary, helped out a lot too.
That was I believe that once we widen Hunt Highway, and then we worked with the town of Queen Creek on the improvements there on Gary Road, I think that opened up tremendous amount, especially on the retail sales in our area. Home Depot, it wasn't long after all of that that Home Depot came in and decided to build. Now we've got Winco coming out there, and then multiple other shops and stores, PetSmart, that have already committed to in that area right there on Hunt Highway and Gary. And then there's several others that are coming. Anyway, it's been a fun ride to see all this change.
Right, building everything up out of the ground. And speaking of that, so for the longest time, the problems with water in the area related to who owned the utility, and you got that changed, and EPCOR took over, and that seems to be going pretty well. But now the question has turned to, is there enough water, and what's happening with water in Pinal County?
Yeah, we got the water, and I won't leave it at that, but we have the water. We went up with, on Monday, talking to SRP, for instance, and because they provide not only the power, but they provide a lot of the water resources for the entire valley area, even this area. And so they took us up, and there was a few of us that went up, and I took my video guy with us, and we shot video, because I've been a firm believer is we've got to tell our story. You know, you've got people that we have a particular, our governor, for instance, came out and said some things about the lack of water. And I get it that we need to have some water conservation, but the message that she gave was so damaging, I believe, for economic growth, that I feel like if we don't tell our story here, somebody else is going to, that really doesn't understand or even know what the true story is. So in talking to SRP, we went up and we looked at the reservoir system starting at Bartlett Dam, because that's the area that they're going to be starting to extend and make it another 150 feet taller than what it is. And they're actually going to come on just to the opposite, right up against it. But that will help the sediment easement and things of that nature. They're going to raise that another 150 feet. That will triple the capacity of the water in that area right there alone. Then we flew over, we went to Roosevelt Lake, and Roosevelt Lake is at 95% right now. 95%. The next one down, Apache Lake. Same scenario. Then Canyon Lake. And then Saguaro Lake. We are at 95% on every one of our lakes because of the snowfall and the rainfall. And then we came down the Salt River. They're releasing water out of there, but it doesn't stop just at those lakes area right there. It goes as the Roosevelt flows down. You've got the park there in Tempe, the river there, that has been a strong amenity. But there's different areas that they have literally built to where water will flow into those areas. And what it does is it's a natural recharge that goes down into our water basin. And so all of these areas, they've been able to control the amount of water that goes down into our aquifer. And it's amazing over the years where the steps that they've been taking to help preserve water. He made an interesting comment, the gentleman that was giving us the tour. And he talked about the difference between the Salt River project and the Colorado River project, bringing the water from over here. And he says, the bottom line is we have too many people drawing off the Colorado River. That's the real issue, is there's too many people, and they've been doing it for years. And and a lot of it hasn't really been under conservation. They haven't been really monitoring each of the states. And so we're at a battle right now with the upper states when it comes to the Colorado River. But going with SRP and seeing some of the things and how they manage the whole system has been unbelievable. It was really a great experience, because what's going on, we already have a canal system that we can move water from that system and bring it around to the Pinal area. And that's the discussion where everything went. was the water, the amount of water, especially when they have excess water, they can actually put it into the CAP canal, transfer the water around. You know, we got plenty of water. We just have to move it. That's all. We just have to move it in the locations where we need it. But there's plenty of water.
I think those are some really good points. Arizona's always done a great job of water conservation and planning, and we've had a great plan since the 80s that other states have not followed. And so you have places like Las Vegas and Los Angeles that are just drawing water like crazy. Las Vegas, I think, is almost entirely dependent, or it was at one point, on the Colorado. And we have multiple sources, and you mentioned SRP, who does a great job managing that. We have another video on our YouTube channel talking about those very things, because I think putting water in the ground is really interesting, and we got to talk to the person in charge of that, because I'm like, how do you know it's still there? But
do you know, the thing that they talked about was that since the 60s, you take in the 60s, we had about 1.5 million people in Arizona, in this region right here, in the Phoenix metropolitan area. And now we're up to 7-8 million, at least, in this region. And we use less water today than we did back in the 60s. Wrap your head around that one. And I think a lot of it has to do with our farming operations have become better than what they were in the past. I believe that when it comes to using our reclaimed water, we're more efficient and more effective on how we do there. That was an area that we were missing a lot on with the Johnson Utilities issues. And now that EPCOR is in there, we did a video again showing some of their brand new facility that they just opened up, Copper Basin. And that water is so clean and pure that it goes back into the aquifer. They're able to put it. Right now they're using it on a lot of the farm operations over there. And that's just one way that you can recharge the system. So there's some techniques and things that we, as going back to what you said about the state of Arizona, and the forward thinking that a lot of people have had over the years is really what's benefited us, the recipients today. It's just up for us to just keep that forward thinking going.
Right? And not undo it too.
No.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that, but we'll keep working on that and making sure it doesn't happen. But Chairman, we're coming to a close at this point. I wanted to make sure we touched on everything. If there's anything that you wanted to touch on that we haven't yet, we're happy to do that now, and we can also take questions as well.
You know, I think for me, probably, why don't we take questions first, and then I'll wrap it up. Does that sound good?
Questions, transportation, development, water, anything? I think we've covered most things, so.
I have a quick question. You brought up, we were talking about the LG plant and stopping the leakage out of the area. When I remember former mayor of Mesa, Scott Smith, always talking about one of the advantages of economic development and the need for the infrastructure is so that you don't lose kids, that, you know, they grow up in your town and then they leave because there's no jobs. And is that also part of the philosophy and the strategy behind bringing that economic development, so that the kids that want to stay can stay instead of having to leave and go someplace else for work?
And that is really something that we've been plugging the holes. We have a tremendous workforce organization that the county has that is specific to help job trainings and things of that nature. You know, I mentioned the 6 high schools. That's something that we have invested some money and time in as a county to help. We have a good workforce. We just don't. Honestly, that's why LG chose this area, is because we have a great workforce available to them. And so that's one of the big reasons why they chose this area. We're building a brand new facility over on the CAC campus in Apache Junction that will be specific to training new people for the LG. And that training center could be also used in other areas. We started something like that similar down in Casa Grande with the Lucid Motors. And we provided some training with the CAC College, and they have a tremendous robotics and everything else pertaining to that industry. Nikola is also using the same facility there in Casa Grande. I say Casa Grande, the mayor over there says Casa Grande, so I want to be respectful.
It's the proper way.
Yeah.
If you lived in Arizona for any length of time, it's always been Casa Grande.
My wife always makes fun of how I talk anyway, and so, and then there's that, and then there's a lot of the other industry that's over in Casa Grande that we have some training ability that we put money into. To your point, so many parents, they want their kids nearby, but to what you're saying, the jobs just aren't here. Well, we can't say that anymore. We've got some major jobs and the employment opportunities are here, and it's even going to shoot up even more.
Yeah, the LG was just the beginning, and lots of projects lining up, and even the stuff along Mesa. And along the Germain corridor, all the way to the airport. We were just at the Zenergy groundbreaking, and just another example of high-tech manufacturing coming to our specific area. And I think the biggest thing is making sure that people don't have to drive long distances anymore to find those jobs. So instead of going all the way to Tempe and Phoenix, Chandler over at Intel, they can stay right here, and then hopefully take some of that off the roadways.
I went and met with an organization that trains electricians commercially on the commercial stuff last week. And the discussion included CAC being there.
Central Arizona College.
Yes, thank you. And there's a college campus right there in Santan Valley right next to my office. And with 6 high schools, it's being underutilized. And so the discussion was focused and centered around bringing those skill techniques that they're training, the electrician field. We don't have enough of the trades being taught in our setting. And we're wanting to change that mentality, because not every kid, let's face it, I didn't even finish college because of the bookwork that was required in it. And so, but I'm more of a hands-on guy. And that's where I learned. That's where I learned how to farm. That's where I learned was the hands-on and working with people that knew it. And so when it comes to that type of stuff, that I think we're seeing society as a whole making a shift in that direction, to where we're more focused on where they get their education, that their education is more focused in wherever the field of interest that they want to go. And that's where we're headed. And that's what we've been doing, and we will continue. We're just going to enhance on it.
I think Central Arizona College is a great example of that planning and that forward thinking. They've done a lot of transformation, and they are leading the way in the high-tech manufacturing training and the skilled trades. And if you have a chance to tour one of their campuses, it's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, I just found out the other day that we're lacking in accountants. Majorly, a lot of our corporations, they don't have enough people that are wanting to do accounting. And so CAC Central Arizona College is going to be developing a curriculum centered around accounting practices.
It's such an exciting career, you would think. Well, Chairman, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being here, and always appreciate you coming out to see us.
Well, thank you, and instead of coffee with Mike, I had orange juice with Mike. And so, but it always does my heart good whenever we can sit down, all of us, because we're a family. That's my family has grown to where it was just my siblings and I and my mom and dad, to where it was my own children, and now my grandchildren, including all of my kids' spouses, and even to the entire Pinal County, and even it has branched out even more than that. We're all family, and I think that's the biggest thing that I think everybody ought to remember. If everybody can be just a little bit kinder, a little bit sweeter to one another, I think we'll just have a much better world all the way. Kumbaya. Thank you.
And thank you.